Commander Elias Monroe stood at the edge of the docking bay, staring out at the alien palace floating in the void. It shimmered like a dream giant towers made of crystal, glowing faintly with soft blue light. This was the capital of the Lumeri Empire, a place no human had ever entered before. He adjusted the collar of his dark gray uniform, was nervous, but he wouldn't show it. Humanity had worked for years to get this chance, a peaceful meeting with one of the most mysterious species in the galaxy. Behind him, his assistant whispered, "They're waiting for you, sir." Elias gave a short nod and stepped into the shimmering transport sphere. Instantly, it carried him forward, across the void, into the heart of the alien palace. The hall inside was breathtaking. Walls of living crystal pulsed with slow, gentle light. The floor reflected the stars. Dozens of tall, elegant figures stood in silence. They were Lumera graceful beings, with glowing eyes and skin that shimmered like morning dew. Their robes floated around them, moving like silk underwater. At the far end stood the queen. She was taller than the others, with a presence that filled the entire hall. Her long silver hair shimmered like moonlight, and her eyes glowed with the colors of a distant nebula. Her crown was made of delicate light strands, humming softly. She raised a hand, and everyone grew quiet. "Welcome," she said, her voice like music. "You are Elias Monroe of Earth?" Elias stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Yes, Your Majesty. I am honored to meet you." She studied him for a long moment. The hall was silent, the air still. Then something in her face changed. Her eyes widened, and she stepped back slightly. "No, it cannot be," she whispered. "That face, that voice." Elias frowned. "Is something wrong?" The queen's voice shook. "I remember now. You're the one who saved me long ago." Stunned silence followed. Elias blinked, confused. "Saved you?" I think there must be some mistake." But the queen wasn't listening. She turned to her guards and waved them away. Slowly, she descended the steps of her throne, her eyes never leaving Elias. Her voice was softer now, filled with something between awe and sorrow. "It was many years ago. I was young, I was lost, wounded, on a dark, cold moon. A child, a human child." Elias felt a strange coldness crawl down his spine. I don't remember anything like that." "You were there," she said, her voice firm now. "You brought me food. You covered me when I was cold. You stayed beside me until my people found me. And then you were gone." Elias looked down at his hands. For a moment he saw something, just a flash, a memory, a dream. Silver creature lying beside him, the smell of ash and wind, small boy offering his coat. Laughter in the darkness. He looked back at the queen. "I used to have strange dreams. As a kid, I thought they were made up." The queen's eyes softened. "They were not dreams. They were memories." He shook his head slowly. "Even if that were true, it would have been over 20 years ago. I was only 10. I don't remember enough." She stepped closer. "But I remember everything." The silence grew deeper. The Lumeri nobles looked on, unsure how to react. Some whispered. Others frowned. But the queen raised her hand, calming them. She turned to Elias. "I wish to know the truth. If what I believe is real, then our histories are connected. You were there for me when no one else was. You showed kindness when I was helpless." Elias didn't know what to say. His heart was beating fast. Could this really be true? Could he have met her all those years ago? "I want to believe it," he said quietly. "But I need to understand more." The queen gave a gentle nod. "Then come, walk with me." She led him through the glowing halls, past silent watchers and flowing lights. As they walked, Elias saw paintings made of light, telling ancient Lumeri stories. He saw stars being born, empires rising, and the queen, as a child, smiling, playful, free. She stopped at a round door and touched it, revealing a crystal chamber filled with floating memory crystals. "This is the memory bloom," she said. "Every Lumeri stores their past here. If you allow it, I can share mine with you." Elias hesitated, then nodded. She stepped forward and placed a hand over a floating crystal. A beam of soft blue light touched Elias's forehead. Images filled his mind. A young alien girl, scared and alone. A small boy hiding in the wreckage of a crashed ship. He offers her food. They laugh, they talk. They sit under the stars. Tears filled Elias's eyes. It wasn't a dream. It happened. The light faded. He stood in silence, breathing slowly. The queen looked at him, not with the eyes of a ruler, but with the eyes of someone who had waited a long time for an answer. "You didn't forget," she said gently. "You just locked it away." Elias smiled softly, "I guess. I really was there." She nodded. "And now you are here again. Maybe not by accident." Outside, the stars glowed silently. Something new had begun. Elias stood quietly inside the memory bloom chamber. The soft blue lights faded around him, leaving a deep calm in the air. His heart still raced from the memory he had just seen. It was not a dream. It was real. Long ago, he had met the queen. When they were both children, he looked at her now, the queen of the Lumeri, and saw not just a ruler, but the same lost girl from the memory. Her glowing eyes watched him closely, filled with wonder and something else, something warm and personal. "Don't understand," Elias said slowly. "How is this possible?" "I don't remember everything. It's just pieces, images." The queen nodded. "It is because your human mind was young. Sometimes deep memories hide to protect the heart. But they remain, waiting to be awakened." Elias touched his forehead. "And you remembered all this time," she said softly. "My people have stronger memory links, especially when emotions are involved. I kept that memory close, even when others believed it was just a dream." Elias walked around the floating crystals. Each one pulsed with silent light, holding memories of other Lumeri. "What happened after we were separated?" The queen sat on a smooth bench made of light. "My people found me, took me away quickly. I was not allowed to speak of what happened. Our laws forbid contact with unknown species. They were afraid, but I was not. I wanted to return to find you again." "Why didn't you?" "I was watched closely," she answered. "And later, I became queen. Duty became my life, but I never forgot. And now, here you are." Elias sat beside her, still trying to understand the truth. "All this time I thought those were just dreams. I never knew that I had helped someone from another world." The queen smiled gently. "You did more than help. You saved me. I was hurt, alone, and afraid. You showed kindness. You brought me warmth when I needed it most." Elias looked up at the ceiling. Stars moved slowly above them, like a living sky. "I don't remember what I said to you back then, but I'm glad it mattered. You told me," she said, "that stars shine brighter when shared." He blinked. "I said that." She laughed softly. "You were a child, but your words were full of hope. I've never forgotten them." The room was quiet again. Only the soft hum of memory crystals filled the air. Then the queen stood. "Is more? Would you like to see what I saw that day? My memory of you completely?" Elias hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, I want to see." She placed her hand on another crystal. This time the light was golden. It moved gently across the room and touched Elias's temple. The memory began. He saw himself against Mahler, younger, with a dirt-smudged face and kind eyes. He was living in a wrecked escape pod with his parents. One night, a soft crash echoed. Outside, he followed the sound and found her a wounded alien child, her silver skin glowing faintly, her leg injured at first. Both were afraid, but young Elias gave her water and sat near her, came back every day, bringing food, covering her with a warm blanket. He made up stories, drew pictures in the sand, and told her she would be okay. Slowly, she smiled again. Then, one day, lights appeared in the sky. The Lumeri rescue team arrived. They carried her away quickly, and Elias stood silently, watching her go. He waved once before she vanished into the stars. The memory faded. Elias opened his eyes, feeling something heavy in his chest. "I was just a kid. But I meant it when I said I'd protect you." The queen looked at him with emotion in her eyes. "And you did." They left the chamber and walked back to the royal garden. It was peaceful there, filled with glowing plants, and soft music in the air. 2 moons hung in the sky above. "I wish I could remember more," Elias said. "You will," she replied. "Now that your mind is open, memories will return slowly." He looked around the garden. Your world is beautiful. It is, she agreed, but it has been closed for too long. We have been afraid of change, afraid of the past. Elias turned to her. Do your people know about what happened between us? No, she said. Only my closest advisors know now. Some fear that my connection with you could weaken my position. Why? Elias asked. It was just kindness. 2. Some, she said, kindness is seen as weakness. But I do not agree. I believe it is strength. Elias smiled. Then maybe this is a new beginning, not just for us, but for our worlds. The Queen looked up at the stars. Perhaps there are still questions to answer. Like what? I want to return to the place where we met, she said. The moon called Silent Thart. It holds the rest of the truth. Elias nodded slowly. You want me to go with you? Yes, she said simply, if you are willing. He looked at her for a long moment. He had come here as a diplomat, representative of Earth. But now, he was something more, someone with a forgotten past. A connection to a queen and a part of a story not yet finished. I'll go, he said. Let's find out what really happened. The Queen smiled, and for a moment, her royal mask fell away. She looked almost human, hopeful, curious, full of wonder. As they walked back toward the palace, stars blinked softly overhead, watching silently as two old friends prepared to return to where it all began. The ship moved silently through the stars, leaving behind the shining crystal palace of the Lumarai. Commander Elias Monroe stood near the large viewing window, watching the stars pass by. He had traveled through space many times before, but this journey felt different. It was not a mission, it was a return. Beside him stood the Queen, her silver robe flowing gently around her. Her eyes were calm, but there was a quiet storm beneath them, memories, emotions, questions waiting to be answered. Silent Thart, she said softly. That's what we call it. Moon with no wind, no voice, only memory. Elias looked at her. What do you hope we'll find there? Truth, she replied. Proof that what we shared was real, and something more. The ship landed on the moon hours later. The surface was pale gray and smooth, with soft hills and silver dust that sparkled under the light of a distant sun.
Ow.
The air was thin but breathable. Lumarai technology had prepared the area for their visit. Elias stepped out first. The moment his boots touched the ground, a strange feeling passed through him, something familiar. A memory tugging at the edge of his mind. This place, he whispered. I think I remember the smell. The Queen walked beside him, her steps light and graceful. Yes, this is where we met. Over that ridge, they climbed a small slope and reached a wide, flat area. There, half buried in dust, were the remains of an old escape pod. Its metal body was rusted, its shape broken. But parts of it still held the symbol of Earth's old space agency. Elias knelt beside it. He ran his fingers along the edge. This was my pod. The Queen moved slowly toward a patch of dry soil nearby. She knelt and touched the ground. Something soft and crystal-like grew there, thin blue flowers with glassy petals. This, she said with a small smile. You planted this here? Elias blinked. I did? The memory? She explained. You found a broken seed from your pod supplies. You placed it in the ground and gave it water every day. I remember watching you, crouched beside her and gently touched one of the plants. It sparkled in the sunlight. It survived. Yes, she said, and it grew, like the kindness you gave. They sat together in silence for a moment. No words were needed. The place spoke for itself. Then Elias stood and walked toward a large flat rock nearby. He stared at it for a while, then touched it gently. I used to sit here, he said. I told stories about Earth, the stars, the dreams I had. She nodded, and I listened. They walked slowly around the area, letting the quiet guide their thoughts. Every stone, every shadow felt like part of a forgotten memory. Then they found something unusual. Half covered in silver dust was a small drawing, carved into stone. It showed two figures, one human, one alien holding hands under a star. The carving was rough, made by small hands long ago. Elias knelt beside it. I made this. The queen smiled. Yes, you said it would remind us of our friendship. He laughed softly. I really was a strange kid. You were a kind soul, she said. That is why I never forgot. Yes. The sun lowered behind. A distant hill, the colors of the sky turned soft blue and pink. The queen sat on the ground and closed her eyes. I feel something here, she whispered. A connection, stronger than memory. Elias sat beside her. What do you mean? She opened her eyes and looked at him. Among my people, we speak of a rare bond called Seltaran. It means Sultich in our language. It happens when two beings, even from different worlds, share something deep and true, something that changes them forever. Elias looked down. You think we share that bond? I do, she said. And I believe it is the reason we found each other. Again, he thought about it. Maybe it sounded strange, but nothing about this journey had been ordinary. He remembered how he had felt as a boy, wanting to protect the strange creature he found. It hadn't been fear, it had been friendship. And if that's true, asked, what does it mean for us? The queen looked toward the horizon. It means our lives are connected, not by accident, but by purpose. He sat there in peace as the stars began to shine above. The moon called Silent Thart was quiet, but in that silence, something powerful grew, a truth neither of them could deny. As night fell, Elias stood and looked around one last time. We should build something here, not just for us, but for both. Our worlds, the queen agreed. A place of memory, a place of hope. They marked the spot together using Lumeri crystal and human metal, two symbols united in peace. The small monument stood at the center of the field, shining softly under the starlight. Before they left, Elias turned back and whispered, Thank you, Silent Thart, for giving us back our story. The queen smiled beside him, and for showing us where it truly began. Hand in hand, they walked back to the ship, not as strangers, not just as a human and a queen, but as two souls who had once met in the dark and found light in each other. The capital of the Lumeri shimmered under a soft sky of flowing light. High above the glowing city, crystal towers caught sunlight and turned it into music's off notes drifting through the air like a dream. Shared light, a moment no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. Commander Elias Monroe stood quietly in his guest chamber, adjusting the simple silver robe the queen had given him. It was not royal, but respectful, blending human style with Lumeri design. He looked at himself in the mirror, unsure. This doesn't feel like a job anymore, he whispered to himself. It feels like a story. Soft sound came from the door. It opened with a wave of gentle light and the queen stepped inside. You look ready, she said with a kind smile. Elias gave a nervous laugh. That makes one of us. She walked over to him, her robes shimmering like moving stars. You are not just here as a guest now. You're a part of our memory, part of me. Elias met her eyes. Are you sure your people are ready for this? I heard whispers in the halls. They are not all sure, she admitted. Some still fear change. Some hold tightly to the old ways. But I believe in the power of truth. And truth is what we'll share today. They walked together through long halls of living light. The walls gently moved, reflecting their steps. Other Lumeri passed by, bowing slightly to the queen, their eyes curious as they looked at Elias. For the first time, they did not see him as just a human. They saw him as someone meaningful. The ceremony of shared light was held in the heart. Garden, a large open space filled with crystal flowers, floating lights, and soft blue grass. Lumeri from across the empire stood in silence, their glowing eyes watching the two figures at the center. In the middle of the garden stood the light mirar floating orb that revealed true memories through light and sound. It could only be activated by two who shared a deep bond. The queen stepped forward and lifted her hand. We are gathered not for politics, she said gently, but for remembrance. Elias took his place beside her, feeling the eyes of the entire empire on him. Long ago, the queen continued, when I was a child, I was lost on a lonely moon. I was frightened, alone, and hurt. I was not rescued by soldiers or rulers. I was saved by a boy with no power, just a warm heart and kind hands. That boy was human. He was Elias. Soft murmurs filled the garden. She looked at him. Today, we show you the truth. Not through words, but through light. They both placed their hands on the orb. A wave of golden light spread out, and the air shimmered, and slowly the memories began to appear. The crowd saw a young human boy giving food to a wounded alien child. They saw laughter, drawings in the sand, small gifts shared in silence. They saw the Child Queen's smile return. They saw the moment when the Lumeri ships arrived, and the two were separated, waving goodbye under a cold sky. Then, the memory changed. It showed the Queen years later, holding a memory crystal close to her heart. It showed Elias having dreams as a child, drawings of stars and silver-skinned beings in his notebooks. They saw the day they met, again the shock, the warmth, the bond. When the light faded, the garden was completely silent. Then slowly, a soft, musical tone filled the air. It came from the crystal flowers. The plants responded to strong emotion, and now they glowed gently in color. They sound like a lullaby from the stars. The Queen turned to her people. You have seen it now. The bond is real. It is not fear that connects us, it is kindness. It is memory. One elder stepped forward. It was Sarl, wise and gentle. Your Majesty, she said, we have seen your truth, and we are moved. But what of the human? What does he say? Leah stepped forward slowly. His voice was steady but humble. Never knew that what I did as a child would matter so much. I didn't save her because I had to. I did it because she was scared. And I knew what it felt like to be scared too. He looked around. Maybe I don't understand your world completely, but I believe something simple. We are all better when we care for each other. That's what the Queen showed me. And that's what this bond means. Another elder, Vale, who had once spoken against the Queen's connection to Elias, stepped forward. Now, and do you still stand with her, even when the galaxy may not understand? Elias nodded. I do. With all my heart. A long pause followed. Then Searle smiled gently and placed her hand over her chest. A beam of soft blue light rose from her palma. Sign of acceptance. One by one the other elders followed. Some slowly, some quickly, but all raised their hands. In the same gesture, the garden filled with music again. Brighter and clearer this time. Later, as night covered the city and stars appeared in the sky, the Queen and Elias sat alone under the glowing trees of the garden. They accepted us. Elias said quietly. She nodded. They did, and not just us. They accepted the idea of more. Elias smiled. More bonds. More bridges? The Queen looked at him. It is time to take the next step. Earth must know. The stars are opening. He nodded. Let's build that bridge. And in the silence that followed, the two of them looked up at the sky no longer, wondering if the galaxy would listen, but knowing it had already begun. After their visit to Silent Art, Elias and the Queen returned to the Lumeri capital. The journey back felt quiet but meaningful. Silence between them was not empty. It was full of understanding. Something had changed. Their past was no longer a mystery. It had become a bridge between two hearts and two worlds. The Queen stood on her high balcony, looking out at the stars. Her long silver robe moved gently in the breeze. The sky was peaceful, but her mind was full. She had always ruled with wisdom and calm. But now she felt something new, something alive, something personal. Elias walked onto the balcony and stood beside her. I still can't believe all of this, he said quietly. She looked at him. And yet you feel it too, don't you? He nodded. Yes, at first I thought it was just memory. But now, it's more like I've always known you. Like part of me is only now waking up. The Queen turned to face him fully. Her glowing eyes were soft. That is the bond, Salturin. It lives in both of us now. Stronger than before. Elias took a deep breath. What does it mean for us? And for your people? She walked slowly across the smooth crystal floor. The old ways speak of the bond with great respect. It is rare. Most Lumeri never experience it in a lifetime. The Hoodoo are said to become more than themselves. They bring peace. They guide change. He followed her. Do your people still believe in it? Some do, she replied, but others fear it. They believe it will pull me away from tradition, away from power. Elias paused. Would it? The queen looked up at the stars. It might. But power is not the only way to lead. I want to show them a different path, okay? Path with open hearts. Later that day, the queen called for a private meeting with her most trusted advisors. The royal chamber filled with tall, graceful Lumeri elders, their robes shimmering in shades of light. They looked curious and cautious. She stood before them and spoke clearly. I have shared a bond with a human, a bond that began in childhood and has now returned to us. It is Salteron, true and unbroken. A quiet murmur spread through the room. One elder, a wise female named Sarl, stepped forward. Your Majesty, this is unexpected. The bond is sacred, but sharing it with an outsider? The queen replied calmly, it was not planned, it was destiny. We met not through war, not through power, but through kindness, and it has returned with meaning. Another elder, a strict and serious male named Vale, frowned. What will the people think? A queen tied to a human? Will they not question your judgment? Leah, standing at the side, said nothing. He knew this moment was for her. The queen stood tall. They will think what they must. Hide truth to protect fear. Elias is not only a diplomat, he is part of my story, of our story. And he has shown wisdom, care, and understanding beyond what many expected. Sorel nodded slowly. Then perhaps the people should see this bond. Hear it in your own voice. The queen smiled. They will. At the ceremony of shared light, Elias raised an eyebrow. What's that? The queen turned to him. It is a rare tradition. Two souls stand in unity before the people. Their thoughts and memories are shared through light. It is a symbol of trust, honesty, and hope. He hesitated. You want me to take part? Yes, she said softly. If you are willing. He looked at her for a long moment, then gave a small smile. I came here to build bridges. I didn't know one of those bridges would be you, but I'm ready. News of the coming ceremony spread quickly across the capital. Some whispered. In doubt, others were curious. And many, especially the younger Lumeri, were hopeful. They wanted change. They wanted something new. The day of the ceremony arrived. The grand hall of unity glowed with soft golden light. Thousands of Lumeri filled the space, standing silently beneath crystal arches. In the center stood Elias and the queen, facing each other beneath the light stone, a floating gem that could reveal shared thoughts and memories. The queen raised her hand. The hall grew still. Today, she said, her voice strong, we do not speak of politics or power. We speak of memory and truth. Many years ago I was lost, a child in the dark, and a boy from a world not our own found me. He gave me kindness when I had nothing, and now that bond has returned. It lives again. She stepped forward and placed her hand on the light stone. Elias did the same. A soft light grew between them, and images appeared in the air. The escape pod, the small boy and the injured alien girl, laughter under the stars, the crystal flowers blooming on Silenthart, the queen's smile when she first remembered him, the two of them sitting quietly on the moon's surface, and finally, the memory of two hands touching as stars rose in the sky. The crowd watched in silence. Many had tears in their eyes. When the light faded, the queen turned to her people. This is the bond. It is not weakness. It is truth. And truth is our strength. The hall filled with soft, ringing musica, sign of approval among the Lumeri. Elias looked around, amazed. I didn't expect this. The queen smiled at him. Nor did I, but sometimes the stars lead us where we must go. A soft wind passed over the quiet field on the moon called Silent Thart. In the center stood a new structured all, smooth and shining with a soft blue light. It was the Starbridge Memorial, built with both Lumeri crystal and human alloy. On its base, simple words were carved in 2 languages, where kindness met the stars. Commander Elias Monroe stood before it, his hand resting gently on the metal. Beside him stood the Queen, calm and bright as ever. This was the place where they had first met. Long ago, when they were just a boy and a lost alien child. They stood here again, not as strangers, but as symbols of a future shaped by peace and memory. "This place feels different now," Elias said. The Queen nodded, because now it remembers. Their journey had changed everything. After the ceremony of shared light, the people of the Lumeri had responded in a way neither of them had expected. Elders who had once doubted began to speak of the bond with respect. Young citizens lit floating lights in the skies, a gesture of joy and unity. And back on Earth, the news spread like a wave. For the first time, the people of Earth saw images of Lumeri life music made of light, floating cities, crystal gardens, and most of all, the memory of a child's kindness bringing 2 worlds together. The leaders of Earth reached out, carefully and respectfully asking for peace talks, cultural exchange, and learning. The Lumeri responded with gentle caution, but also curiosity. A quiet hope began to bloom between the stars. Elias and the Queen had become more than a diplomat and a ruler. They were the first bridge. Now they returned to Silent Thart, not alone, but with builders, artists, and storytellers from both species. Together, they built the Starbridge Memorial. Not large. Not loud. Just honest. Elias looked up at the twin suns rising in the pale sky. "Do you think they'll come here?" he asked. "Yes," the Queen replied. "Not to fight, but to remember. That is what this place means now." Around them, small groups of humans and Lumeri moved gently through the field. Children of both kinds played with floating lights, laughter rising in the air. A Lumeri artist painted the sky with soft colors using a light brush. A human writer sat nearby, scribbling in a notebook, trying to capture the feeling of peace. "This is what I dreamed of," Elias said softly. The Queen looked at him. "You dreamed of this long before you understood it." He smiled. "Maybe. I did." They walked together toward a small platform. There, a gathering was taking place, a quiet ceremony to honor the past and welcome the future. A young girl from Earth, holding a flower grown from Lumeri soil, stepped forward and placed it at the base of the Starbridge. She looked up and spoke clearly. "This flower was grown with light and care, like our friendship." A young Lumeri boy stepped next. He held a music stone and tapped it gently. A soft melody filled the air, one that matched the rhythm of Elias's old story from the memory. He bowed slightly and said, "We remember, and we thank." Elias's eyes filled with warmth. "They're already doing better than we did." The Queen laughed gently. "They are the reason this will last." Later that evening, Elias stood alone for a moment, watching the stars. He thought about the path that had brought him here. A forgotten memory. A meeting between a boy and a lost girl. A friendship that had survived time, space, and silence. The Queen joined him again. She held something small in her hand, a crystal, shaped like a star. "This is for you," she said. "It holds a part of the memory bloom. Your memory. And mine." He accepted it carefully. The crystal pulsed with soft light, warm to the touch. "Thank you. I want the future to remember how this began," she said. "Not with power or rules, but with one simple act." Elias nodded. "Kindness," she smiled. Yes, they stood together as night fell. Above them, the stars shined brighter than ever before. The next morning, Elias prepared to return to Earth. His role as a diplomat had changed. He was now the first Starbridge, a title the Lumeri gave him with honor. He would help guide talks, bring artists and thinkers between the worlds, and remind both sides of the bond that had formed in a quiet field under alien stars before boarding the ship. He looked back one last time. The queen stood on the hill, her silver robe glowing softly. She raised a hand in farewell, not as a ruler to a guest, but as a friend to another. "I'll be back," Elias said. "We'll be waiting," she replied. The ship rose into the sky, leaving behind Silent Dart. But the memory remained. The story was no longer hidden. It was shared, lived, and growing. In time, others would come. Others would build, learn, share. But no matter how far the future stretched, they would always remember the beginning. A child, a lost alien, a forgotten moon, and a promise kept between the stars. The first star bridge had been built, and many more would follow.